Hey, you want to check out what's happening in alternative porn in France? Let me introduce you to Carré Rose Films. Founded by Carmina, a French-Mexican performer and longtime advocate for sex worker rights. This indie studio is doing things differently, putting performers first, pushing for diversity, and tackling industry issues head on, all of which keep all while keeping things hot and fun. One example, check out this series 60 Minutes with. Carmina meets a fellow performer for 1 hour. No script, no plan, just sees where the moment takes them, and you get to be right there with them. Don't worry about whether you speak French or not. All films are either in English or subtitled, so you won't miss a thing. Curious? Head to carrierosefilms.com. That's Carrie rosefilms.com. Cams.com is a performer-run webcam studio working with models who want to make serious bank doing online sex work. Top Treasure Cams models are earning 100K plus a year, taking home weekly fat paychecks. We have a great affiliate program to reward you for any traffic you bring to the site. We help you set up with equipment, tech, sales techniques, monthly meetings, and so much more. Visit treasurecams.com to learn more about us and to cam with us. Have you ever been looking for an amazing queer cam performer? Well, I got you covered. You should check out TS Cami. Her super hot content is on Chatterbait, Twitter, Xhamster, and Reddit. Support this rad trans femme babe. Enter your fantasies. Big Fantasy is a porn star, stripper, femdom, and expert making your fantasies come true. Explore Fig's secret, luxurious world at AQUATAFANA collective.net and at Figs Fantasies on OnlyFans and Figs Fantasy on Instagram. She's waiting for you. Hello, welcome to the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe, and today my guest is queer porn icon Jiz Lee. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. You are the first porn star I ever met. We met at my college campus because I had a short cam day that day and I hit all my cam goals. And I found out from a friend on Facebook that you were speaking at the college. We met, you asked where the bathroom was. I didn't go to school there, but I'm like, I need to take this opportunity. So we got lost looking for a bathroom together.
It was great. Yeah. We found the bathroom. Uh yeah. I have vague. Also, like my memory is spotty at best. So I do have a memory of that classroom, of
Hmm.
meeting you, of wandering down like a hall. We probably did more than one hall, but I have like one specific hall, the lighting, like fluorescent
Yeah,
lighting kind of memory. And taking a picture together, which I know that happened because we have that
because we have the
documented.
photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I showed some porn. I can't remember exactly what I showed.
I can tell you.
Okay,
You showed your orgy scene that's like 30 people for your 30th birthday.
yes,
And I remember being like, "Oh my God." Like just seeing porn in a public space blew my mind so hard.
yeah. Which, God, I really wanted to do a 40th birthday orgy, and it happened that I turned 40 in 2020,
Oh
which was
no.
the worst, categorically the worst year for multi-person sex to be happening at that time. So yeah, during lockdown, I was like, maybe it's not gonna, maybe things are gonna get better, maybe things are gonna open up again. And I still kind of was like planning this date, and then it was just not gonna happen.
Also,
So
like group scenes are so incredibly hard to plan. I was supposed to do a gangbang yesterday and we had like 9 people booked for it. And then it ended up just being a 3 person scene because I feel
yeah,
like people just can drop so easily, especially when you have that
yeah.
many people involved.
It's kind of like, how like airlines will overbook a flight,
Hmm.
knowing that some people won't show up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As you do the airline booking method. Worst case, you just don't go over capacity. Don't want to
Yeah.
cancel my own flight, but yeah.
So you've always been in the porn world in my head ever since I kind of knew about porn. So like I'm just really interested to talk to you about like how you got into it. So you're originally from Hawaii, right?
Yes. Yeah,
How
from
did
Maui.
you how did you get to like you weren't doing porn in Maui, obviously, right?
No. Also, I was 18 when I moved.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's just at the cusp of being, sex work legal, as it were. I did get some propositions for other forms of sex work, but that didn't pan out. So um, yeah, I came to California to go to college. So I got a scholarship and financial aid to go to Mills College.
That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense.
Yep. Yeah. And my focus was in dance. So I got a
Hmm.
dance major, which I still feel is really compatible with performing in porn,
Hmm.
but for well, in a lot of ways. Um, and and going to Mills, I mean, and just being in the Bay Area in general, it was mind opening. Like I already knew that I think I identified as bisexual at the time. And I have this memory of sitting with a friend and showing them two different looks of myself. Like
Hmm.
I had longer hair, and I was like, "Look," and I put my hair like over my shoulder, like hanging forward, and it was like
Hmm.
femmy in my mind. And then I
Yeah.
like pulled it back like a ponytail, and in my mind that was butch. I didn't have that language then, but I remember being like, "Look, I can be like pretty or regular or something like that." I can't remember
Pretty
what I
irregular.
or regular, just me. I can't remember what I called it, but like I think even then I was, I was pretty like a tomboy and, um, spent a lot of time playing sports and all that kind of stuff, right? And not to say that I necessarily identify as butch. If I do, it's soft butch, but I think I
Hmm.
had an idea of androgyny, and what it felt like to just be in my body without necessarily, I don't know. I think I was figuring all that stuff out, specifically when I came to the Bay Area. So
What
to
year
have
was
a
it? What year was
99,
it when Oh,
99.
okay.
Yeah. So to have a queer space to like just be a sponge, and I was just learning so much and soaking so much in, having a lot of sex, uh, figuring out who I was. Yeah, it was highly educational. And it was around that time in college when I saw a screening of queer porn, which again, my spotty memory, like I actually don't know specifically what porn it was, which feels weird. And I'm pretty sure it was uh, like Please Don't Stop.
Mm.
Something from like Good Vibrations. They did a Sex Positive Production was this like distribution arm for videos that they did for a little bit. So it's either Please Don't Stop or it was like from Serve Video, which was like Hard Love and How to Fuck in High Heels. Um, and it could have been something else. So, but I just know that I saw like it was at the Roxy Theater, and I
Mm.
saw what I saw for the first time, what I understood for the first time to be like sex on screen that didn't look like what I had thought about porn up until then. I was like, I actually saw my community and myself reflected in it. And immediately I was like, I want to be on screen. I want to be in like that. I want to be there, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. And but at the time, like this was before, everyone had like a phone with a camera on it,
Hmm.
right? This was like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So like you had to, and like not only were there not that many, like casting opportunities, but like you really had to know someone, and that someone had to have that position to be able to make a video, right? Like they had to have connections with like someone who did editing and like maybe a student who had access to like rent camera equipment. You know what I mean? Like camera equipment was so expensive. Like, yeah, it was just a different um this was before people were really putting like videos on the internet. It was like, things were on VHS when they were released. Um, so like yeah, I just didn't know anyone. So I just sat on this idea of like I wanted to do that, but I didn't really know how to make that happen. Um, and it wasn't until a couple years later when I met someone who would become my co-star for the Crash Pad, and basically it was sort of like a pickup line, like, hey, do you want to do a porn scene with me? And I just literally lucked out. Like I was at the right place at the right time. Or maybe I was like sleeping with enough people that I hit the like jackpot finally of like, all right, and I have my chance to be connected to this, porn world. And it was great. So that was Shine Louise Houston's The Crash Pad film.
Hmm.
I ended up doing 2 scenes in it. I was still nervous speaking back then in interviews, so that hasn't changed. Uh, there's like a behind the scenes blooper where I'm maybe freaking out more, back then as it being like my first time doing an interview kind of thing, where I was just like so nervous talking. I was a nervous wreck. The sex part was way easier, million times easier, and awesome. And still to this day, I think my first shoot was like my favorite scene still.
Really?
Yeah,
Still?
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of emotion behind it. And I think maybe I'm sentimental for that reason,
Hmm.
but sometimes in porn, like I like to fall in love with my co-stars a little bit. Like I like to have that lustful connection and that like sort of romance leading up to a shoot. And I don't know. So it varies, but I think because of that sentimental reason and the person I was dating at the time and just like the just everything leading up to it made
Hmm.
it really heightened. And um and I think also like so not only was it like a super high chemistry scene, that scene in particular, but um I don't know, I feel like I made an impact in a way and I sort of
For
set the
sure.
set the motion for the rest of what I was doing. I think if I had had like a scene that I wasn't as connected with the person with, I don't know if I'd have that same, you know, that I don't think I would have had that same boost of like, here's a great scene right off the bat.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
feel like the queer
Or a great
porn scene,
experience right off the bat. Like maybe I wouldn't have had that much fun.
I feel like the queer porn scene, like just from the outside perspective, it just seemed like it organically happened so much where people were shooting with partners at the time and it just really organically became a thing with like what Crash Pad was doing. What was like the world here before that? Was there still like people kind of making porn or was it still pretty like
Well,
not much going on?
I mean, it does feel organic, at least as a performer. And being able to choose your own co-stars is like such a luxury.
Hmm.
Um, uh, a luxury and a privilege. It's funny. I think I want to think of like Shine We're Here. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, it was organic, but like she had to do all the planning and all of the
Yeah.
coordination and all the money and all like the everything that goes behind like setting it up and distributing it and all that." Um, let's see. This was like 2005,
Hmm.
and at that time, um, so things were moving to DVD,
Yeah.
um, and I think there was an interest, specifically from sex toy companies to get in on this, like, whatever you want to call it, whether people had different words for it, whether it was like dyke porn, indie porn, um, alternative porn, or alt porn. Uh, some sex companies were pushing like education porn or like
Hmm.
adult video guides. I think they had this like a particular word for it, but it was like the quote unquote porn for women market,
Hmm.
in whatever splinters of fractions you want to like identify, certain uh, releases around that. But the quote unquote porn for women market was like it had some money behind it. And so you had various different sex toy companies actually producing these videos. Um, and for a moment, it really like it boomed. Like there was like a lot of videos being made. And as a performer, that was awesome. And again, being very lucky, being like connected with the right people, being in the Bay Area, because a lot of the companies were in the Bay Area. Um, I just, yeah, was able to ride that wave. And and then that was sort of like that first movement that I remember of, uh, you know, having the backing, at least for some features and stuff, from different sex toy stores, and then um, and then the internet picking up and the internet becoming a way to uh, start a membership site and release films that way. Um, I remember when DVD sales were still more like they paid better if you were doing a film for a DVD
Hmm.
than for the internet because there was this question of like, well, who knows how well it's going to do, sort of.
Yeah.
And so your pay rate for a DVD versus a web clip or whatever was like very vastly different, which to me is crazy now. It's like, or it's like unreal because the internet clip gets seen like more times because
Hmm.
print publication has been basically gone now. But yeah, there was a weird moment in time where it's like, oh, it's just for internet, so it's
It,
less.
it's really weird. I still have like I call it the end of the DVD era, so I still have like a million DVDs of like my first two movies that are just like
Yay!
sitting in my closet where I'm like, okay, I have this. I don't think I'm gonna sell them though. Like, who's buying a DVD right now?
Some people are into it again, which is something. I mean, I don't know, like the way that censorship is going with online stuff, I would not be surprised if there was a bigger push towards analog. Uh, However, I'm sure like Comstock era, like, mail shipping laws would come back and be like, you're going to get arrested for shipping pornography across state lines or something. I I was in one of the last issues of Honor Backs magazine, which was a
Mm,
print porn
I
magazine.
definitely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had to essentially smuggle it from the US to Canada in order to sell it at
Oh
like
my God.
feminist sex shops in Canada. Yeah, like little LGBT stores selling um one of the few like print smut magazines that was specifically for like queer women. Yeah.
What was the name of the other magazine? It was like a trans mask magazine. Was it like
Was it
Original
specifically,
Plumbing?
yeah, OP. Which
Yeah.
wasn't specifically porn, but it was absolutely sex worker friendly.
Adjacent. Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
yeah. And I do remember like heavily like good big articles in that. I feel like they had like a recent sort of like anthology.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I should look that up. Yeah. But
I yeah, I
they
just
came a
remember
little
like
bit
the James
after.
Starling
Yeah.
cover. Like that's like vivid
Uh-huh.
in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, maybe in some ways they picked up where some of the honor backs sort of left off. That and a Butt magazine was a
Oh, I
good
don't know
one.
about that one.
Oh yeah. And yeah, but there was Lesbians on the Loose, which was a lesbian magazine, but there wasn't really anything pornographic after, you know. Yeah. There's also a shift from like lesbian porn to queer porn, which is more
Mm-hmm.
inclusive, which I appreciated. Um, and uh Yeah, and so having more web access to distribution um, definitely picked up the number of like filming opportunities, and then consumer-based, equipment like the cameras
Mm-hmm.
got cheaper, and
So
editing got
cheaper.
easier. Yeah, so that kind of allowed a lot more content to be made and shared,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. Simultaneously, there was there was something in the water in
Mm-hmm.
2005 or 2006, that was spawning all these different movements of pornography in different countries too. So like around that same time, Berlin Porn Film Festival started, and Shine went to, I think, the 2008 festival there,
Mm-hmm.
um, and had that a similar mind-blowing experience of being like, oh, there are other people who make like porn that's different, like
Yeah.
we're all different in different ways, but like it's not all the same cookie cutter commercial. And not that that's bad, but it's just like what else is there, and how else can we like exemplify what sex could be. And that was encouraging. There was the Feminist Porn Awards, which were
Yep.
recognizing different creators, and that was really encouraging. Just to be like, wow, um, people appreciate this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole global community of people who are interested in not only like making this, but also being consumers, because, you can't make porn without the finances. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
you could, but you have to be bankrolled in different ways, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah,
find funding somehow.
yeah.
So like what was it like when stuff started taking off? Because obviously we're doing stuff here. There was a queer porn movement here, kind of in its like early stage, like for phase one in 2005, 2006. But when it like became involved with alt porn, like you were in Belladonna's Trap Dykes, like you got nominated for an AVN, you shot stuff for Kink. Like, what was that like? Because for me, when I came in, all this other stuff was unexpected. But at least I could be like, okay, the generation before me, like yourself, they've been nominated for stuff. I can expect, okay, there's gonna be screenings overseas. You can kind of see a little bit of a um just like a guidepost of being like, okay,
Right.
these are the things that are possible. What was that for you? Because I'm sure you weren't expecting all of this stuff to happen.
I was not. Yeah. Yeah, I like this idea of like the foot in the door. Like, okay, there's a pathway here.
Mm-hmm, for
And
sure.
I was not the first. Like there were, um if I can like go back and sort of like at least those that I am conscious of having an
Mm-hmm.
impact in the ripple effect that later became like my possibility. Um, I can cite Christopher Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's a trans American filmmaker and co-founder of the SF Trans Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Was a Pride Marshal, first out trans man Pride Marshal, and he did one of the first porns that I bought on VHS, like that I owned,
Mm-hmm.
which was Sex, Flesh, and Blood. And it's like this amazing BIPOC in a cemetery, gothic, really rough, smutty sex film. And it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And I highly recommend it to anyone. Um, but so he was making films up until his passing. Um, and also slightly before like the 2001 era
Mm-hmm.
Sir Video, right? Um the sex sorry the uh I think it was Hard Love and How to Fucking High Heels was no, I'm sorry, Sugar High Glitter City. That
Mm.
film of theirs was the first one to be nominated for a like best lesbian sex scene
Oh
that
wow.
was directed by lesbians. So they broke the mold, I guess, in that way,
Yeah.
and attended AVN. Actually, I inherited Jack Strano's tie that they wore for that event, so like I have that in my closet. Um, but and then you have like female filmmakers from the 80s. Candida Royale definitely push the mold, and Debbie Sundahl, Nan Kinney with Fatal Video, and you also had like Barbara Hammer and people doing like alt experimental indie like underground under the
Mm-hmm.
radar type films. Um, Shili Chang. Um, yeah, so I feel like there were avenues, and breaking into like mainstream was not expected. Not fun, I should say.
True.
It was like really fucking awkward, and I don't know if I did it well. Like I don't know if I there's not a lot of things that I regret.
Yeah.
But there's definitely things I would do differently for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a lot of lesson learning happening. I think I was curious to see um how mainstream porn would accept me, if they would, what my role in it could be, if I had to like negotiate things around that, um, what it was like, and um, yeah. And I guess I kind of thought maybe like, well, if I have an in somehow, like I could be um, I could be the gateway, wait, the gateway queer to like open up porn for other queer people, maybe, if they're like, hey, we're gonna take a chance on this weirdo, and if it sells well, because apparently, like, there's something happening, and this, like, they recognize the movement was happening.
Hmm.
So they're like, oh, well, we'll hire you and see what, how that does financially, I think. Right. Um, and it's hard to say like whether it worked or not, like what a successful porn looks like,
Yeah.
like what a successful experience is. I think I could feel that. Um, you know, uh, but and I guess like in some ways, maybe like being that like foot in the door gateway kind of thing of like, you know, um, I was receiving like fan mail and stuff from
Hmm.
people who specifically saw the Belladonna um, DVD. And
First off, like, let me just say that's like one of like the best lesbian movies ever. Like, it's so fucking good. Like, that's still on my list of like
uh,
pivotal alt porn. Like, it's so fucking good.
that's great. Yeah, she's a total sweetheart. I was nervous. I don't know if I did my best scene. I think I just remember feeling like really nervous. Um, I remember she was on her period, and that was causing some complications. So I felt like I guess like I couldn't like get like embodied and feel like
Hmm.
completely with it. And I had had a chance to meet her before. Normally I think with my um, in my approaches to performing, I would always try to
Hmm.
meet the person, and I really wanted to have chemistry with somebody. I didn't want to have to fake it. I don't think I'm good at faking it, and it's not as enjoyable. And
Hmm.
and I'm very privileged because I always had a full-time day job while I was doing this, so I never had
Hmm.
to rely on a scene. Um, I think I would have definitely burned out if I had to. I either would have burned out, or there's just not enough studios that would have accepted me to make enough to make rent, to be honest.
Hmm.
So like having a day job in the meantime meant that like I could be very picky and choosy about what scenes I wanted to do. Um, so yeah, so I always like to at least have a chance to meet my co-stars if I could. And and yeah, no, Belladonna was like really sweet, really cool. Um, I she was a mold breaker in a lot of ways, even
For
though she was
sure.
she was so much more mainstream, but she really pushed a lot of boundaries. Um, and yeah, so that scene went well, and I did get some feedback from people about that. And also Joanna Angel, that was another one that was sort of big, and Tristan Taormino doing the
Hmm.
Vivid Alt. Um,
Wait,
yeah, yeah,
you were on Burning Angel, weren't you?
yeah,
For like I forgot about that because I remember that now where that just like came back from my 2010 porn knowledge.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I did a couple scenes with them in a film that was called Doppelganger,
mm,
where Joanna has a blow-up doll that like takes over her life, which was a really cute script. I don't know what happened about that movie, but um, yeah, that was fun to shoot. Yeah, so I would get like emails from people, um, and I think it also helped that I had an online presence, so they could
mhm,
find out about me, Google me, find my website, read my blog. Um, I think this was a little bit before Twitter. And or maybe Twitter was it might have been coinciding with Twitter too.
mhm,
And get a bigger sense of like who I was. When I started being more vocal, like about my gender identity and pronouns, I think that was educating some people. And so I would get a lot of emails from people who were like learning that for the first time, I guess, and or being grateful that they see that also out there. Um, and I think what's really interesting is that like this was before there was a lot of representation in mainstream TV and movies.
mhm.
Yes, there was stuff, but like it wasn't like mainstream in the way that it is now, or closer towards that, right? It's still not there, but
Yeah.
now it's like now there's like I mean there's a long list of trans actors,
Yeah,
for
non-binary
example.
people.
Non-binary people are
It's
like,
yeah.
yeah, in some of the most popular shows on television right now, which is amazing.
Hmm.
So but back then there wasn't. And so we were kind of like those of us who were out in porn were sort of the like proxy of like who, like, who fans would go to, right? And so we'd get all these emails and questions that were sometimes not even like sex related. It was more about like gender. And so I was grateful for that. And it was interesting. And it's also been interesting to watch like now that there's like so much more representation and there's actors who are not porn actors. I think people are bringing their questions there, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I feel like you were a really pivotal part from kind of bridging the gap between alt porn and queer porn, where it felt even when I like first started getting into porn, I felt like there was alt porn like Burning Angel. I felt like there was stuff like what Stoya and Sasha Grey were doing, and then there was queer porn. And then I feel like they started to kind of merge over time where there's, Stoya will talk about the queer porn scene in the Bay and like us using really like not I wouldn't even say fetishizing, but almost like glamorizing using safer sex supplies in a Vice interview, where like I felt like it was becoming more and more of an accepted thing. And then I feel like when my generation of performers hit, it was just almost accepted in mainstream porn. So to see like the generation before us really kind of bridge that gap, I think is just like really important for like what you guys all did, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I God, I have memories of like trying to convince this lesbian porn director guy to let me use like gloves in my scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like he's like, "Oh, it's not sexy. No one wants to watch that." I'm like, "I think it's sexy,
I
but
think it's
okay,
so
you're the boss."
sexy.
I know. Yeah, and I think that also like informed a lot of stuff with like, I, was production assistant for Crash Pad and like working behind the scenes with
hmm
that site. But it's like it really informed like performer choice, like you write you can collaborate on your script, your co-star, what kind of sex acts you want to do, how you want to protect yourself. Like performers, you know, we know how we want to fuck, right? And we're also
Yeah.
like, even particularly now that like so many performers are their own uh, producers with their own
hmm
content. Like so many are that like how you want to present yourself, how you feel comfortable doing that. Like I don't know. I think that I almost laugh at this guy who was dictating what sex would look like, right? And like what kind of acts were happening and whether or not you could use gloves and this and that. And I feel like it's like they're dinosaurs, like
For sure.
yeah. So yeah. And that was amazing. It's been amazing to be going through like I would almost feels like there's like a post-COVID era
hmm
of porn. You could call it like OnlyFans era or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that the OnlyFans was there before COVID lockdown, but it really like because it was a good option, I guess, available option. It really was there when people made the
It was really crazy going to the first AVN after COVID because that was the
yeah
most new performers there were ever in the industry. Because like a bunch of people just left porn. There
yeah
was like so many people there. I usually do interviews during AVN week, and everyone I interviewed first AVN. And it's just like that's what it was. Everyone I talked to there, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is my first AVN essentially." And it's just like such a big shift where honestly like half the people I interview on this podcast now were not in porn before the pandemic, and just like the perspective shift where this comes up often where I'm like, yeah, back in the day, it was just a guy who owned a camera and that made him fit to be a director and he thought he knew what porn was. And that was just so drastically different.
right, the confidence of a mediocre white man
Yeah, that's
with
all
with
porn was back then. And
with his money.
it was so different because so my influences were all like there were some trans women that really influenced me. Drew DeVoe, obviously, Toby
Mhm.
Holmeyer, but it was more
Yeah.
like Drew being like, "I'm gonna do lesbian porn. I'm a trans woman. I'm a lesbian. I'm gonna do that." Amazing, and that really inspired me. And Toby Holmeyer just being like, "I'm just gonna do it myself. I don't need all these other
Yes.
people to do it." But my performance wise was more from cis women, like people like Sasha Grey and Stoya, where I feel like when I first got into trans porn, they just put me in it because they're like, "Oh, you're a trans woman. You're gonna be able to do all this checklist of things." And it's like, I didn't get into porn to do solo scenes for cis men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like having Crash Pad or other queer porn sites where it was like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" as opposed to a company like Ruby that was like, we have a checklist. You do this for 15 minutes, you do this for 5 minutes, and then we fake a cum shot at the end, and that's the scene, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That cookie cutter, like five positions and a cum shot. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I mean, money dictates, right? It's
Hmm.
like this is what sells. If they deviate and it doesn't sell, then they don't do it again. They try new things, but like only up to a point. And yeah, like, but to be able to have like to be able to have the power to release our own scenes, right? And the distribution and like everyone's got a video camera in their pocket,
Yeah.
you could shoot, you could coordinate, shoot, edit, distribute, all from something that you already own. There's
That
like no
can
overhead,
that
no
can get
overhead.
nominated for awards, that can get
Yeah.
into like film festivals. Like it's so crazy to be like, I got
Yeah.
nominated for an AVN off of something I shot on my iPhone
Yeah.
and edited
Yeah.
on iMovie. Like you can do
Yep.
that now. It's just so crazy.
Yeah. And it really did flip the studio performer dynamic and power
Hmm.
dynamic in a really like profound way, I think. Studios like performers don't need studios
Nope.
at all, at all. And studios know that and feel that. They're feeling that right now. They no longer have, you know, uh, like the idea of like there being an agent who dictates like who gets to be in this video and then
Yeah.
like that's not a I mean yeah they still exist but like it's not it's they're no longer the gatekeeper in that way and like I think and it's a good thing and like what there's so many new performers now I feel like I used to know everybody and now I
For sure.
definitely don't and that's great though because it just opens the field up to so much more diversity and like democratization of porn is like a good thing. There's still a lot of like isms, and it's still a lot easier to make bank, if you fit the isms of
Yeah.
social, status quo. But but you can still make it without that. And before it's like good luck even getting casted, like so that's been beautiful.
It's been
That's
such
been
a
really good.
shift. Like everything used to be in California where it was like you're either shooting in the Bay, queer stuff, or shooting for BDSM sites, or you're going to LA to do mainstream. And now it's like this whole thing of this came up when Storia came on the podcast where it's like if you want to be a porn star now, you move to Vegas, you shoot content, trade as much as you can, and that's if you want it bad enough, you can become a porn star. And it's just like such
Yeah.
a whole different perspective than even when I moved here, where it was like, okay, you move to the Bay because these four studios are here and you hope it works out.
Right. And so you think you might know that like there's only two states in the US where it's actually not a crime to film porn,
Hmm.
and that's California and New Hampshire of all places.
I have shot porn in New Hampshire, so
That's
I feel
great.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so studios were sort of, the reason why all the studios were in, California or New Hampshire
Hmm.
or California is that is because there was the freedom of to be able to operate as
Hmm.
like a legal business without persecution. And the reason why I think a lot of other states that aren't California and New Hampshire don't persecute the pornographers that are making work there, at least not right now, knock on wood, is that
Yeah, right.
if it does come to a Supreme Court case, porn is free speech, right? And so then it would become not criminalized for people to, there would be a precedent where it's okay to shoot porn in your state. And a
Hmm.
lot of them don't want the dirty porn people in their state. So they just like don't touch it. I think they're just like with their fingers on their like, la 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 la. I'm
Yeah.
not seeing anything. I'm not here. You know what I mean? They don't want to touch it. And I maybe Las Vegas might be like um, I don't know if they're yeah, it's a beautiful bubble over there. But yeah, like so I was thinking about this recently, like the my own personal shift of performance,
Hmm.
like post pre-COVID and post-COVID. And like I I feel I have a lot of ideas for films.
Hmm.
Um, but it takes a lot to pull them off in the way that I could see them manifesting. And um, I feel like I'm a performer, right? Like I like being presented with an idea, whether it's got some acting or it's, experimental or fashion based or something, and going to the shoot and having this organized set that either has the equipment that I would need to do it, or the makeup
Hmm.
department, or all these things that are ready to go, the costumes or whatever. Um, and then I do my performance and I get paid, and then I go home, and then a couple months later, the film comes out magically, right? Like all this editing has
Yeah,
happened, everything that I have,
those
I
are the
have no idea what's
days.
going. Yeah. And I get to like, it becomes like this present of like, I had this good experience doing it. And then
Hmm.
like a little bit later, here's the present of this like film coming to fruition and being out in the world. And I just see it and promote it. And like, I'm big on affiliate marketing. So I get to like make some money from it
Hmm.
too. Um, and I miss those. I feel like they're, because the studios are not the kings they used to be, like there's
Hmm.
not as many opportunities like that. It really feels like there was this like peak of studio shoots and everything, and then with the COVID lockdown and all that, like and the shift that's happened, and like the preference, I think, for a lot of consumers, if they really want to like be so connected intimately with their favorite
Yeah.
performer, they really do like being on subscription models where like they can like DM with
Hmm.
their 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 porn icon, and that's great. But yeah, it means that there's less money behind the studios to make these bigger, more elaborate productions that I really liked being in. So I do miss that. And I don't shoot porn as often these days. I think because of that a little bit. Like
Hmm.
I would love to, and I hope that it picks up again. But I can't tell. Like, is it because I'm older, which, whatever, like 45 this year, so not like that old, but also like,
Yeah.
right? It is not the typical porn age. Um, I don't have boobs anymore. So I
Hmm.
might have like, cut off some of my audience potential, right? Whatever. I'm happy about it. Or is it because of necessarily like the studio performer dichotomy money switch? So
Hmm.
there's just like less opportunity. So I've only done a couple of scenes with other people since 2020, and I do look forward to doing more. But besides that, it's just like these like solo masturbation things for OnlyFans that um I mean, they are what they are, but
Yeah, it's hard to
they're not
get
like a
super
theater piece.
inspired.
Yeah, yeah. So it is really hard to um I don't know. I keep a book, like a little diary of like ideas that I have. I have a lot of porn ideas, and hopefully I'll be able to get to exploring some of those, but they take money and resources and know-how that I don't quite
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
I feel like you're really right. Like, just the way porn has changed so much, where I feel like the early part of my career, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere, I'm gonna get paid, I'm gonna pay my rent from doing shoots as a performer. And now it's like being in the producer role, it's just like more like I have to make this happen, however, I'm gonna make it happen. And it's like this whole thing where you're just like fighting all these issues that come up. And that's what movie production is for me now, where it's just like, oh my God. Like I shot a public disgrace scene with Princess Donna. We produced it all on
Yay.
ourselves. So it was like, oh my God, we have to find a venue in San Francisco that will allow this. Okay, now we have to promote a whole party, so we have a party backdrop. And it's like, oh my God, we need to then find people to do all the paperwork and IDs. And like, it just feels like film production's almost problem solving now for me, where the performance is like, it's in there, but it's not the big oh my God, I have to super prepare for this. Like it seems like the
Yeah.
performing now is like the easy part.
Yes. And some producers out there being like, welcome to my world.
I know.
This is what, but like, and in the DVD days, there was examples of performers who would go from being stars to like directors, like
Hmm.
that director route, but they'd be carried there, like they
Hmm.
would be like, they'd be shown, what to do. Here's example budget. Like, let's, like someone would be there to like help them, right? Be an executive director. They'd have like an executive director helping them. Um, they'd have the budget,
Yeah.
right? They'd have the budget. They'd have a lot of the same equipment or, you know what I mean? Like the same connections and the same,
Hmm.
the same people to help out. So like, we're like, we're all learning this like as we go, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, not a lot of us don't have that same hand holding of like, and particularly like the financial support of like your directorial debut is going to be like released by, a big studio, whereas
hmm
it's like it's us, it's all our own. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
finding that money is part of it. I feel like anytime anyone asks me, they're like, "How do you come up with funding?" I'm like, "If you just talk about stuff enough, eventually you'll find the people excited enough about it." I'm like, every cam show I do, if I have a project I'm excited about, I'm talking about it for an hour at least. So I'm
Good.
like,
Yeah.
eventually you find the right people. But yeah, it's been such a shift. So is there anything like that you still really want to do that you haven't been able to do yet? Like you have your whole list of projects. Is there any like one big project that you're like want to do before you? I mean, are you just gonna perform forever in some capacity, do you
That's
think?
the current plan. I mean,
Same, yeah.
yeah. And again, like it's not because it's not my main source of income, which there was a point at least a year ago, and I'm like, maybe it should be because I might be making more money if porn was my only source right now. But um uh yeah, I have a lot of ideas. Um it's hard to say. I guess it's like my logistical brain and then like my artsy brain are like at war with each other
So
sometimes
hard.
because like I
So
know
hard.
what I think I could like market really well and what
hmm
I think could take off and be profitable. Um and then I have like things that I'd want to do and it doesn't matter like whether or not it's profitable.
hmm
Um I don't know. Yeah. The ideas range though. I do have ones that are just little like studies, like, I would love to play with this concept.
hmm
Um, and most of them are like film concepts that I've become more aware of. Yeah, like the one thing I've been more involved with like film festival stuff and getting to
hmm
see other people's porn is like, especially artsy porn is so
Yeah, it's so
inspiring. Like
fun.
every time I go and see a film festival and like see like a shorts program, I come away with so many more ideas of like, oh, I really
hmm
like how they like explored this. Like I would do it this way or like, so um, yeah, I
It's
don't want to drop
such
any ideas yet.
okay.
Yeah.
It is such a thing. Like before I went to my first time in Berlin, I was so burnt out on porn because that's like when I spoke out against all like the transphobia and slurs and shit.
Hmm.
And I was get facing so much backlash that I was like, everyone in porn is so mean at the
Yeah.
time. There's so
Yeah.
much like hate I'm getting and stuff. And then I went to Berlin the first time and I saw, do you know Fuck the Fascism?
Hmm.
Where they're like
Yeah.
going around like defacing
Hmm.
fascist graves and stuff.
Yeah, they're like humping sketches of tanks and
Yeah, and I'm like,
yeah.
everyone's saying I'm so political in the States, and then I'm like seeing this before my movie's screening, and I'm like, okay, this is like where I should be. This is the shit I should be around, you know? And it just like gave me
Yeah.
such a second wind in my career to be like, I can do weird things. You can do all this stuff and not have it just be solely so linked to kind of like the American capitalist porn system.
Right. Yeah. When I see what I saw, I think of that was performers being afraid of speaking out
Mm-hmm.
um, because it would impact their own either money, career, connections, and is that like that line of like, you make these choices um, and if it's for survival and that's your choice, then it's like you can't really, I don't know. It's difficult. Um,
I think
I
in my
think.
position, I mean, you've been to my hometown, you saw how big it is. It's pretty
Mhm.
small. I
Yeah.
was just very naive. So I was like, oh, if I
But
tell
what
them
a
that's
blessing. Yeah.
kinda.
It's a
So
blessing and a
like
curse, I guess.
I feel like it was like two aspects where I came from a lot of poverty. Like my dad was homeless, my mom was disabled. So like me making $1,000 on cam or $2,000 on cam in a pay period and
Mhm.
that's like real money to me at the time. So I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I got it made just from camming. So I think when I came out here, I was like, oh, if I like raise concerns as a trans person, they're gonna be like, oh wow, thanks, Chelsea. That's really insightful. Thank you so much. We should really like take this in and be like, yeah.
Thank you for educating us. We'll change that right now.
But they were like,
Yeah.
Chelsea, you're gonna ruin all of porn. I'm
Oh, I
like, oh my
know.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad I came in and I was able to speak out, but as you can tell where I'm from,
Hmm.
there's a certain amount of naivete that kind of comes with being from a small town where if you do raise concerns with people, they usually kind of take it seriously.
Yeah.
But it was very different when it's people who are making millions upon millions of dollars off
Yeah.
of mainstream trans porn and
Yeah.
those
And you, what is
terms.
the phrase? Like you stir the pot and all of a sudden like the bees are like, whoa, fuck, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, and then I don't know, worlds change, words change.
Yeah.
Look where we are now. I think that it's going to continue to evolve, um, at least as long as the fucking administration doesn't have their way
Yeah,
with like
right.
censorship and everything. Yeah, hanging out in prison will be fun.
But
If we,
like if we're all there,
I mean, they can't
someone
arrest everyone, can
someone's
they?
gonna sneak an iPhone in, there's gonna be some crazy porn shot.
Mm,
Like we
prison
know
porn.
that's gonna
That's a great. Yep.
happen.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
like the T for T porn that would happen. Unreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just like such a great like it's so crazy to me that porn is now one of like the only trans positive spaces that I feel like there's not a debate. If trans people are nominated against cis people, like I've been nominated for best BDSM movie the last, I think 3 or 4 years, and no
Mhm.
one was ever like, oh, a trans person can't be in this category. A trans person can't be nominated against cis people. Where I feel like everywhere else in the world, if it's major
Yep.
films, music,
Sports.
sports, like it's
Hmm.
everything that's like always being like, well, why is a trans person there? And it feels
Yeah.
this weird thing to have us to have all these weird experiences where we get to travel the world and go to Europe and have all these experiences as trans people during this time period. And kind of, I mean, I'm not gonna say there is no transphobia in porn, obviously,
Right.
but it feels like we can exist far more here than we can kind of anywhere else.
Yeah. My theory with that is it's something that like I learned on the job with like the phrase like sex positivity and stuff,
Hmm.
right? Or like learning how to talk about consent and boundaries and things that like you really need to talk about when you're in porn,
Yeah.
right? Like you really need to like assert your boundaries um and communicate. And I think that like because of that, it's maybe made the people who work in porn better
Hmm.
at that. Specifically, I'm not saying perfect by any means, but like I think that we're maybe like a little bit more familiar with like um people being different and having different
Hmm.
kinks and like, bodies are different and I feel like it's a little bit more respectful, I guess, because there's more communication around it. Again, not perfect, but like
Yeah.
maybe because of that, like you don't have, I don't know. I think I saw something with Miss America or Miss Universe or something where
Hmm.
like they were the trans winner and everyone's like mad because like she had plastic surgery or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't, yeah, maybe there's more respect, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's a
Yeah,
very interesting thing. Also, like AVN now, since the pandemic, it's crazy. I've never been in a place with that many trans people there in like Pride.
that's
Like
great.
the amount of trans people there now is so crazy that it's like 20% trans people at these award shows, and it's just so
Maybe I
vastly
should
different.
I feel like I should go again. I
Go
normally
again.
don't. I normally don't do. I guess I haven't in a while done like the awards shows because I mean the last couple of experiences I had, it was like, oh, you're too alternative to have this like red carpet interview. Sorry, we can't have you on the show.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, various backlash about like a performer posting a picture with me and people being like questioning like what gender I am and like gross ways, not sexy ways.
Oh,
So Yeah, but I guess it left like a little bit of like this still isn't my space, or like it still isn't like it's something, I want to be comfortable, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I'm okay being uncomfortable when I'm prepared for it, but like if I'm gonna be spending my own money to go to something and I don't know, celebrating, I want to be
Yeah.
comfortable when I'm celebrating, I guess. Yeah. So it left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but uh yeah,
If you ever
yeah,
want to go
maybe
back, you're welcome to hang
yeah,
in our group every time. We'll go to a diner afterwards, the whole thing,
that's, that
the
sounds
whole
lovely.
award show experience.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I have first off, thank you so much for talking. I have one final question for you.
Yeah.
This is my only kind of like BuzzFeedy kind of question. So let's say you can wake up tomorrow and one thing could magically be changed in porn. What would you have it be?
Oh, good question. Um, can I just have sex work decriminalized?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean,
Hell
it's kind
yeah.
of a it's kind of a cheat question because like I have a lot like I have a laundry list of things that I
Yeah.
would like to change, but I think that like almost every single one of them, that like stem of why it's there
Mm-hmm.
is because of stigma around sex work, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's because it's like criminalized, so it's the billers have a problem with it, or this like tech company has a problem with
Mm-hmm.
it, or like Apple doesn't want to have an app for it, or like like we can't be like any other business because there's this link, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
around like sex negativity, misinformation about sex, and assumptions and myths around sex work. So if we could just like have that off the table and have like way less restrictions around banking, finance platforms, tech platforms, um, and everything else that like people don't want to work with us or touch us because we're
Mm-hmm.
tainted, right?
Yeah.
Like it would make it so much easier, like I'd like to be able to make a higher percentage of sales, not
Yeah.
because like, we're like beholden because there's only like a couple companies that will work with us and we're considered quote unquote high risk. So they take because of chargebacks or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Stigma, right? So they take higher percentages. Like let us live, let us thrive.
For real. It's also so crazy going to places where sex work is decriminalized and like discriminating against sex workers like financially is illegal. Like going to Belgium or the Netherlands, and it's just like so crazy to come back here right after that and being like, "Oh, my friends there literally were part of fixing the banking system so you can't discriminate against sex workers." But then I come back here and I go on a thing for 3 weeks with a payment processor who's like, "Oh no, we're totally cool with it. We're totally cool with it." And then you sign the contract and they're like, "Oh, actually, we can't do this." And it's
Yeah,
just like so frustrating that even if you're doing quote unquote legal sex work, which I think that's bullshit, but
right.
that there's legal and illegal sex work, that it's
Yeah.
still this thing that you're getting penalized, even if you're a tax paying person, no criminal record, all this stuff that's still like, oh yeah, all these financial institutions can still discriminate against you.
Yep. Yep. Without recourse. Yep.
Such
Bullshit.
bullshit.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah. Let's change that. Let's fix that.
Yes, let's change that.
Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow morning we all wake up, magically
Let's,
happens.
let's change it yesterday. Let's get it
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
So where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they find your work?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I have jizzlee.com, the very first website I started, and keep it going. And everything's linked from there. I'm divesting from X, even though Twitter used to be my favorite social media platform.
It used to be the
So
porn social
sad.
media. It used to be
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. But I'm on Blue Sky right now and I'm still on, I haven't got kicked off Instagram since like the first time I did way back when. So I'm still on Instagram. But yeah, sign up for my newsletter. Uh, I try to keep my website updated, but all my links are through there.
Well, thank you so much, Shiz. It was so great to catch up with you, and I feel like I learned so much about early queer porn. And yeah, thanks so much.
Yay. Oh my God. Can I plug one thing that I'm
Yeah,
kicking myself that I haven't plugged
anything.
yet? Cool.
Yes, anything.
Um, this year, sorry, late last year, my book came out with a second edition.
Yes.
I edited the coming out like a porn star. It's got a bunch of stories in it.
Hmm.
and which I'm so grateful for, like over 60 performers and industry
Hmm.
professionals who trusted me with their voice and their words to basically share whether they're out about porn to their family members,
Hmm.
friends, other work environments, like stigma that's happened and issues that's happened around that, child custody, like, it runs the gamut from like good stories, bad stories. It's just honest. And I think that anyone who's in the industry can relate to it and maybe learn something from it and different strategies around being out or not. And then people who are just outside of the industry and curious would also benefit from knowing what it's like to be in this industry, like as a person, as a human being.
Yeah, you should definitely check that out. We're both in the book, so
Yes.
yeah, well, thank you again so much, and I hope everyone had a great time listening.